So if you play Dead by Daylight, there's a pretty good chance you have some characters in mind that you'd like to see in the game. Whether it's original or licensed, there's a lot of characters that many people would like to see as either their own chapters or paragraphs. And while there are a lot of original ideas that I'd like to see in the game, such as a scarecrow or a deep sea diver, today we're going to be talking about one of my most hyped licensed chapters. And if you clicked on this video, then there's a good chance you already know who it is. I'd like to see Homelander come in as a killer in Dead by Daylight. I know some people might be turned off to the idea of having a quote-unquote superhero come into the game, but if you choose to go by that logic, then you're kind of already denying who Homelander is as a character. He's more than an evil Superman, he's actually a pretty well-written, complicated villain. And if you're a long-time viewer of the channel, then you would know that I talked about this a little bit more than a year ago. And hey, if you still don't like the idea of Homelander being in the game, let's take a quick look at who he is as a character. He's an egotistical maniac who's high on power and believes himself to be more superior than the people around him. He believes that he is more than human, which, of course, he is. He's also a blonde white douchebag. Look a little closer and you'd notice that we kind of already have this character in the game in Wesker. But if you watch The Boys, then you would know that Homelander's a little bit more complicated than that, and personally, I think he's actually a greater villain than Albert Wesker. And if you don't think that superheroes can be scary, I highly encourage you to either watch The Boys or to go watch the movie Brightburn if you don't feel like watching a whole show. As a longtime fan of comics, I think the idea of metahumans who can snap and abuse their power on normal humans whenever they want is kind of terrifying. I mean, we have a K-pop idol in the game as a killer. You're telling me someone who shoots lasers out of their eyes can't be seen as scary? I think the first scene of Homelander that made me want him in the game was a scene where he goes to a warehouse and kills a bunch of bad guys who somehow managed to get their hands on the US's secret superhero formula. Still not too far off from Wesker and Ouroboros. Anyways, he walks all around this warehouse, lasering people, hacking them down and stomping on their skulls, and I guarantee you, you can put anyone else in this warehouse, like Michael Myers or Freddy Krueger, and it would be just as fitting. Having this big bad who just overpowers every human he comes into contact with isn't too far off from Dead by Daylight. I also really like the visuals of his glowing red eyes as he walks around the dark room. And funnily enough, it actually made me think of the Frosty Eyes cosmetics in DBD. Also, we know Homelander is no stranger to appearing in video games after we saw him cameo in Mortal Kombat. Which, off topic, let me know what you guys would think about a Scorpion killer or a Mortal Kombat collab in general. Aesthetics aside, I think Homelander could have a pretty interesting power in the game as well. And before you guys go and try and say that Homelander's too overpowered to be a killer in the game, let's not forget that the Entity started putting down a power limiter on killers such as Vecna or the upcoming Dracula from the Castlevania chapter. And if you're not familiar with some of Homelander's abilities, let's quickly go over them for you. So as mentioned before, Homelander's kind of an evil Superman, and being so, he has the ability to fly, shoot lasers out of his eyes, and he has super hearing. He does have some others, like invulnerability or the ability to scream so loud it actually pierces your eardrums and makes your ears bleed. But laser beams, flight, and super hearing are what I'd like to use for his kit. And starting off, I'd like to say that we should use his laser beams as his basic attack. And I know that laser beams seem like a super strong attack that should maybe insta-down a survivor, but if you know Homelander, you know he doesn't really like to get his fists dirty. He's kind of a lazy asshole, and most encounters that he has with enemies, he just goes directly to laser beams. He's pretty lazy. Plus, as we mentioned before, he does have the power limiter, so it wouldn't be the most BS thing in the world for them to do minimal damage. Now, basic attack aside, I think his power should have two forms, or stances. I think while Homelander's just walking around the map like normal, he should be walking at a normal killer speed, such as like the Trapper. But I think after you press his activate ability button, he begins to levitate off the ground. I think while he's levitating off the ground, he should be a little slower, as well as the ability to gain killer instinct on anyone within his tear radius. Of course, this would be a reference to his super hearing. While in this levitating form, he would have access to his second ability, his dash. Dead by Daylight's already shown us that they're not scared to implement flying into the game with Vecna. I think Homelander's power should be a mix of Vecna's flight and Wesker's dash. I think Homelander should fly in a straight line with the ability to go over windows, and he'll instantly grab and toss the first person he comes into contact with. However, unlike Wesker's dash, I think that the dash should end as soon as you come into contact with someone. This would kind of make it so you can either choose to use the flight for maneuverability and getting around the map faster, or if you do manage to catch a survivor, it ends right there. Maybe there could be add-ons to increase the throwing distance after catching someone, but I don't think that you should keep having that flight distance after you grab them. And just like Wesker's dash, I think that the survivors shouldn't be injured if they don't get thrown into contact with anything. But if they get thrown into a wall, or a tree or something, then yeah, they should lose a health state. Now, I think that the fly meter should actually be on a pretty lengthy cooldown, because if they don't choose to grab a survivor, I think they should be able to go all the way around the map with flight, kind of like Billy's chainsaw. Keep in mind though, this is a straight line dash and not something you can curve. Also, add-ons would be pretty easy with this power, like for example, an Eerie could be If Homelander comes into contact with a pallet or breakable wall during the dash, he instantly breaks it. Maybe reduce cooldown, maybe extended flight duration. I mean, you have a lot of possibilities. Extended throw distance. Now, let me present a situation in your head. Let's say you're playing Homelander, you're chasing a survivor, you land a basic attack with your laser beams, and then they're headed towards a straight line god pallet. You ready into your levitate mode and do a straight dash into them and catch them before they drop the pallet. You toss them into a wall, pick them up, and hook them. By the time you hook them, you have your flight back again, and let's say you're running a perk like Friends to the End or Barbecue, you now use that flight for distance to get to the next survivor. Or maybe after you hooked the first survivor, as you're readying your flight to dash to the second, you get Killer Instinct behind a nearby wall. Now you know in your levitate mode that someone was nearby ready for the unhook. I think powers nowadays focus a lot on exposed, maneuverability, stealth, but there aren't too many powers that deal with information. I think information is actually super overpowered in this game because the more you have, the more likely you are to win. I also think that the levitate mode should only be available when flight is off cooldown. This way you're not spamming the levitate to gain information for free. I don't think this is too overpowered and actually more akin to something like Vecna's bubble. If we were going to talk cosmetics, I think obviously you would have to consider a bloody Prestige 6 Homelander, but also for legendary reskin, I think they could very easily do Stormfront. Stormfront was a villainess from The Boys, who is kind of like Homelander. She has the flight and invulnerability, but instead of lasers, she shoots lightning. So the power would remain the same. It would really just be the basic attack that looks different, but I don't see that as too big of a deal. I'm also sure they could work out a ton of original cosmetics because in the Mortal Kombat 1 game, there are a ton of different Homelander capes, outfits, belts, things like that. Now, I'd be more than happy if it ended there, but I do think we could also get a survivor and maybe even a map for this chapter. So the obvious choice for a survivor would be Huey. Huey is someone who has a grudge against Homelander and Supes in general, but he's basically powerless, and the whole story of The Boys is Huey and the boys trying to fight the Supes all while having no powers. And either as a legendary skin or a substitute for Huey could be Billy Butcher. I think Billy Butcher is a lot more of a survivor and would probably be my favorite to have in game. He's this dark-haired, dark-clothed British dude who has even more beef against Homelander specifically. And he's kind of like the leader of the boys, and which again, the boys is the group assembled to combat the Supes. Those are the only two I really see working as survivors. I mean, sure, you could do somebody like Starlight, but she has superpowers, so how would that work as a survivor? I don't really know. Also, other characters like Mother's Milk or Frenchie aren't as noticeable, or at least not as important as the main two in my opinion. I think for a map, they could very easily do Vought Tower. Vought is the company that kind of crafted Homelander and made him in a lab. They are the ones who produced the superhero serum. They make all the superheroes around the United States, and they're kind of like this big evil corporation that's the real evil behind the superheroes. In the show, you get to see a lot of the tower, whether it's in like hallways or elevators or a little like meeting room. I think it'd be a pretty cool place for DBD, but I mean, we have a ton of indoor maps. It wouldn't be the biggest deal in the world if we didn't get a survivor and a map as well. I also think it'd be sick if they decided to do survivor cosmetics. For example, you could have someone like Felix as the Deep. You could have Michaela as the Crimson Countess. You could do Meg as Queen Maeve. I mean, shit, maybe you could do Kate as Starlight. Who do you guys think could be Black Noir? I mean, Black Noir is kind of faceless in the show. I don't know. Do we have any faceless survivors? I don't think so. You can also do killer skins. Like Black Noir could work as the Legion, although I think I'd like to see the Legion being someone like Kimiko. But I mean, yeah, Homelander is no stranger to video games. We got him in Mortal Kombat, and before that, I think we got him in Call of Duty as well. We had Homelander, Black Noir, and Starlight in Warzone, all with voice lines, mind you. In Warzone and in Mortal Kombat, they all had voice lines, so having another killer in DVD with voice lines would also be strong as fuck. What do you guys think of his power too? I mean, his power was just something I was able to come up with, and I never claimed to have the best idea, so if you guys have something that would work better as a power, do be sure to let me know down in the comments. You can complain a little bit about me adding another dash to the game and more movement to the game, but it's more about Homelander than it is the power. And what I mean by that is I think that behavior's kind of been on a roll lately with releasing killers that give a very immersive experience. Take Chucky, Vecna, The Unknown. These are all recent killers that have had a lot of lore, love, and attention put into them. And funnily enough, I think the voice lines do a huge part in carrying that weight. Also, be sure to let me know if you guys like to see more videos like this on original killers or other licenses that you'd like in the game, because like I said in the beginning of the video, I really want a Scarecrow. I wanted Dracula for the longest time too, but they're kind of already getting around to doing that now. A deep sea diver would be pretty badass too. Pirates, I mean, I just want a water map. I honestly just want a map where we're on a ship and there's moving water in the background. So if there are any other original or licensed killers / chapters that you'd like to see in the game, I mean shit, even if it's just a survivor, we're starting to get those now, so let me know. Let me know what you guys want and I'll try and cover it. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. This one was a little different and I get it, but I appreciate you watching till the end. I hope you have a good day or good night, whatever it is, and take care.